everyone. So a little bit of bonus content here. We were just having a brief conversation. We didn't talk about this a lot in the episodes, and so I thought it would be helpful just to add a short little jaunt into the topic of AI and cybersecurity. I think there's a lot of questions around AI, like, how do I use it at work? What can I trust? What's good? What's bad? But I wanted to ask you guys, just as subject matter experts of all things technology and cybersecurity, where are you seeing the greatest threats that are coming from AI in OT networks, and where are you seeing the greatest benefits? So again, this is kind of bonus content. I don't know if anyone would want to go first.
Sure. I mean, I'll start off. We had worked on a project a year or two ago where we were working with somebody who had pulled a model out of a DARPA project that was being applied in a DoD platform that they thought would be a good fit for use in detecting process anomalies in OT technology. We learned a whole host of things from that. I think, and I probably should even back up and say, when we talk about AI, right? AI has been around since the 50s. It's gone through different generations, and really when folks talk about AI, they're thinking Copilot, Chat GPT, generative AI versus machine learning and that sort of thing. But what we learned when we started looking at this model and building system data was that when you have a portfolio, each building is a special snowflake. The point data coming off those buildings is labeled all differently. So the normalization of that building data before you can even start to use a generative AI model is the first step, and it's a big step. And there aren't a whole lot of people who can do that well to clean it up. And so to me, that's going to be one of the biggest hurdles in doing that. The flip side of that is the thing that does keep me up at night is the fact that you have generative AI capabilities on the dark web that can just scan using Shodan, Census, and so on, create malware based on the vulnerabilities where ports it sees open within 15 minutes and hit go, right? And how do you start to be able to defend against that? So it's always going to be this cat and mouse game against offense and defense, right? And we've got a ways to go on the defensive side.
I kind of feel like some of it is putting your eggs all in one basket. It's like, boy, I've given this model so much information about me or my company or what we do or our industry. Can that be leveraged in any way against me and my organization or my building? And I think that's just some of the open-ended questions, surrounding it. And then you have things like, write a program that exploits, this building.
That's the easy part, right? Generative AI allows you to do that code programming right now, and I've done it before. I've written up scripts in Python and said, "Hey, this is what I want to do. Write me a script in Python," and it works. I think when people ask me about AI, I think you're right. I think the journey is long in coming, because there are certain things that people just don't understand in its practical application. Number one, bad data in means bad data out. So there's a reason why generative AI right now needs to be checked by a human, because it's making mistakes, because it's based on bad data that's coming in. So it's going to be a little while, a couple of generations before it starts scrubbing that. And we talk about baselining. So if I take a look at AI in the built environment, just to operate my building, you're right. In order to be able to know what this node is, maybe it's a VAV or something in the network, I need to tag it, right? And then have that tag, I understand where it's coming from and why it's sending data. And then I need to do something with that data. And if I don't have a proper baseline for it, none of it matters. So there's going to have to be this period where we're going to have to go through it. And AI is making leaps and bounds in cataloging, correcting some of the poor tagging that's been done in the past, and creating new models to be able to address that. So I think there's a lot of value in it. I think the practical application of everyday use, specifically in cybersecurity, is going to be around anomalous detection, right? So we talked before about baselining things. If I don't have a proper baseline of how operations are supposed to be going on, I can't take action because I don't know right from wrong. And I've seen that so many times in my previous career in IT where somebody asked me to take a packet capture because these two nodes aren't communicating. I don't care what they're transmitting back and forth. What's the problem, right? What did it look like when it was working? Is it sending too much data? Is it not sending enough data? I don't know. So I think AI eventually in cybersecurity specifically is going to help fingerprint some of those things, and it's going to move us forward. But we're talking years out, 3-4 years. I can see that start coming more into fruition.
What about you, Aaron?
On the building OT side, cyber aside, I see it as an opportunity. Maybe the most optimistic person at this table about it. I think there's a lot to be gained from energy optimization. You have to pull in clean data, but if you understand air quality, you understand occupancy, you understand how to modify your building management system, there's low-hanging fruit where you can get in, maintain tenant comfort, and also optimize energy with using AI that's available to us today, which can crunch through a lot of data and make recommendations to your building automation system. So I get that's not directly in the path of a cyber plan, but the boundaries should be pushed because there are plenty of upside, financially and also just quality-wise in the buildings that can be gained.
I'm pretty optimistic around a lot of LLMs, large language models. Mm-hmm. One of the things, I had it on my notes, I didn't say it in an earlier episode around education. I use Chat GPT all the time to learn things.
Yeah.
And so when I hear about a mechanical system that I have no idea how it works, I could say, describe this to me like I'm 5. And then describe it to me like, I'm in high school.
Well, even if you notice in Bing,
up.
if you do a Bing search, that's the first thing that pops up is Copilot, right? And it tries to do that. It tries to put that in a language that's simpler to understand.
So it's a great way to learn. I think you could also say, put together a program so that I can become an expert in, IT networking, or give me resources to do it. So I think it's a good way to learn and to educate yourself.
It's a tool, right? We went from abacus to a slide rule to a calculator to a PC.
TI-89.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So,
yeah.
Now my daughter's TI-84 has Python embedded in it, right?
Oh,
so
the 84? That seemed like an 89 kind of thing.
Yeah, and so, it's a tool.
Yeah.
And so how do we use that tool? How do we protect the data that we're putting into that tool?
Yeah.
And how do we defend against it for people who want to misuse the tool?
Yeah.
Right? We've, from a cybersecurity standpoint, I'd say over the last 20 years, the bar has been continually lowered to the level of knowledge that somebody needs to have in order to launch an exploit, abuse a vulnerability, and so on. That's.
We used to call them script kiddies.
Yeah.
Right, where they copy somebody else's work and then they
You don't even need
modify
that anymore.
a portion. No, you don't need it.
Yeah.
You can just write brand new stuff. And to your earlier point when you talked about.
That was another cat analogy, by the way.
It was. Totally was.
So
Thank you. I'm glad you picked that up.
Feral kitties.
The feral kitties, yeah. But how do you trust where your data goes, right? So right now, we actually put in, we didn't make it a policy, but what we did was we published a guideline on AI, particularly for folks in our firm, right? So that they have questions like, how do I use it? I know about it. What do I do with it? What can I trust? So there's a huge cyber portion to this guideline that we published talking about, hey, you don't know where your data is going. So don't disclose this, and this specifically, because you have to spell it out. And you don't want to leave it up to the individual to have it be subjective. So you have to be conscious when you use AI from a cyber perspective if you're using any of these tools to facilitate your business operations, right? And I think that it has a ton of potential. I'm looking forward to it. I get excited when I read all these new things coming out. I mean, I'm a technophile. I can't help it. But at the same time, I'm the cautious conservative one to say, where's that stuff going? Do you really want to do that? Like the Willy Wonka thing? I wouldn't do it. I really wouldn't.
iRobot.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah, right. What if we're the problem?
Yeah.
Right? That was always my favorite thing. It's what if AI determines I'm the problem? And then, I know the way it solves it, right?
Well, that was the Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
Terminator.
Yeah. So there's going to be policies inside the cyber program. You need to be mindful, but at this point, it's not a primary focus. We would agree on that? Keep using it as a tool and
depends,
use it wisely.
Right? So our board, specifically our audit committee, I think has run the spectrum. I'd say, I don't know, last year it was more of the, hey, glad you shut it off, to now it's, hey, what are you doing with it? Because if you don't, you're going to miss out on it as a competitive differentiator and an opportunity. And so we're swinging in that direction, but again, there's so many different factors that go into that. My kids in school are going to grow up using it as a tool. On the other side, there's people in the real estate industry that still print everything out and carry a backpack full of paper home, right? And, everything in between. So, from a cybersecurity perspective, we want to protect our data, protect our infrastructure, protect our assets, right? Protect our shareholders. It's just one more thing for us to worry about.
Final thoughts?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's been our limited edition special bonus content. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.